There we go. Okay, well, welcome. We are going to be starting the process of harvesting the honey on our beehive here on top of Edmonton City Centre on the office towers. So I am currently here with our beekeeper, Mike. And now we're not doing the whole process here. We're really just removing the honeycomb, and then he's going to take it off site and then process it there. But he is going to be recording a video of that we'll be sharing on our bee website page. So yeah, Mike, why don't we go ahead and get started? Tell us what you're doing here.
So we'll start by lifting the roof off here and having a look. There's two extra, we call them supers, on the hive right now for the bees to put honey in. For those who watched the last one, you'll remember the bottom two boxes are for the bees to live in, and the top two are for them to put their excess honey in. And in between the two, there's a divider to keep the queen from moving up inside and laying eggs up in where the honey is. Now, I've already taken some honey out a couple of weeks ago, so it's not going to be overflowing right now, but let's see what we've got. This will be the last time we'll take it off for the season. And then after today, when we remove the excess honey, we'll start prepping them for the winter. So I'll start feeding them and letting them build up more supplies for honey for themselves over the winter. They should have enough, but it's always nice to top them up. Make sure they'll have a successful overwintering and we don't take too much honey from them.
So how do you know that balance of like taking enough honey or, you know, leaving them enough honey?
So basically the rule of thumb is inside these two boxes, there is plenty of room if they fill it up with honey and brood for them to overwinter. So I know as long as both of these boxes are full with a combination of brood, pollen, and honey, that they'll do fine over the winter. So what I'm going to do once we take these two off is make sure that over the next few weeks, they fill this up with honey. And I'll keep feeding them to make sure that they can get that done. So this top box doesn't have much in it, which is as expected. What you'll be more interested in is this lower one here. I'll pull one of the center ones out here. You can see the wax and the comb on the sides, where they've been filling it up with honey. And, let's take one of these middle ones.
So you've already come once to empty these of honey. How full were they?
So I got basically pretty much one of these was already full, maybe 6 or 7 of these frames that I've already taken off. So this will be the remainder, final bit.
Oh yeah, look at that honeycomb.
So you can see they've got some of it that's capped up here. That means it's done and complete. And this honey down here that is not yet capped is they're trying to evaporate it. So they'll put some in there and then keep it hot and blow their wings on it to evaporate it until it gets to the right consistency, meaning enough of the moisture and water is out of it. And then once it gets to that consistency, they cap it like this. So you can see down here, this one is fully capped.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so that's all.
So they seal it up.
That's correct.
So that's why honey can be preserved in a comb for thousands of years.
Yeah. Oh, the back side of this one you can see is pretty much all capped.
So that's full.
Yeah, this one's full.
So how exactly, when you take this off site, what exactly are you doing to harvest it?
So what I'm going to do is I have a roller that punctures and basically perforates all of this cap. Some people will take a knife and just cut the cap off because the cap is just pure wax. And then you can either scrape it off or you can use a spinner that basically spins it around and pulls the honey off of it.
Oh, cool.
I have both, but I generally prefer to do the scraping off and then filtering all of the wax out of it. And then I keep the wax and use it for candles and all kinds of other supplies and stuff.
Very neat.
But you know, that's the process. It's fairly simple. It's just cutting the caps off and then getting the honey out, either taking the comb with it or leaving the comb on. Now, if you leave the comb on, it'll mean next year for them and then put it back in next year. It's just less work for them to build more comb next year so they can focus more on making that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm basically just going to brush the bees off. We'll pull these out one at a time, brush the bees off, and take them away off site, and we'll all the honey. And at the end of this process, this will look a lot shorter than it did because we'll take both of these supers as well and then put the lid right on the very top and then start prepping them for winter.
Very neat. Yeah, I'm getting a bit more bold as well. I don't even have gloves on this time. And then Mike here has mentioned that he doesn't always even wear like a full suit. He'll just put something over his head. And the first time I did this, I was a little petrified, but now it's just like, you know, you can just see they're so friendly. They don't sting. They aren't even swarming. In fact, they aren't even unhappy right now. They're just kind of wondering what's going on.
Yeah, just put it in there. I'll put the lid on it just to keep the bees from going in and trying to get more honey out of it. If they find honey outside of their hive, they'll try and take it back to their hive. So I don't want to transport a bunch of bees in my car home with me. So I brush them off first, put it in the box, put the lid on the box, and then no bees.
So
Fantastic.
when you brush them off, does it make them angry?
If you do it right, it won't make them angry.
Well, let's take a look here.
Yeah, if I do it right. Okay, so again, this half is fully capped, which is ready. And this half they're still working on. So as I brush them off,
Oh, you can hear them.
Yeah, they're okay with it. They don't necessarily like it, but it doesn't get them all swarming and super angry. It's more of an annoyance than anything else for them.
Interesting. Can I try one?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll switch. I'll put on my gloves and you can grab my phone.
Sure.
Maybe, is that waxy?
I'll take my here.
Shot. Oh, you got it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's going to be fun. So it's the fun part of this kind of work. You get some interesting experiences.
Yeah, here you can take.
There we go.
You probably actually won't need this. Here, you can just pull it out with your hands. Hang on a sec. You have to pry it off.
Oh, I see.
That one looks like there's actually nothing on it. Try this one. We'll just pry it loose. There we go. Just pop it straight off. Oh, yeah, you bet. Just wipe them off, and then bring it over and drop it in the box. There you
Isn't
go.
this awesome, Mike, when your clients do the work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So
When you try another one.
when you're done, let me know. And yeah, this one doesn't have any on it. It's,
Oh yeah, they're
yeah,
both
those are still
empty. Hey?
empty.
Maybe
This
this one
one?
here.
But this one here will.
Here, you got to film me.
Okay. Yeah, just wiggle it a bit and pull it out. There you go.
This one feels heavier than the other one.
Yeah, yeah, that one's full. It looks like both sides. Some on the bottom, yeah, brush them off too. Perfect. There you go.
Oh, very cool.
You're now an official beekeeper.
Unofficially an official beekeeper.
Bravo, Dan.
Hello. Yeah, so I guess that's really the process here. He is going to be filming himself do more of the filtration process he mentioned. But this is the bulk of all it is. It's actually a lot more simple than I thought it was.
Yeah, it is very simple. This one's quite full. Yeah, this is a full one.
That's a good one. Get my glove off. There we go.
Yeah, that's full on both sides, that one.
Oh yeah, look at that. You get a nice thick buildup too on the other side there.
So wipe them off and
All right, well, I guess a commonly asked question is, how do you prepare bees for winter? Mike?
yeah, so the way that I prepare the colonies for winter, I mean, they don't actually need a lot of work to prepare for winter. They do all that themselves. They've been doing it for hundreds of millions of years. But what I do is I want to try and give them the best chance of making it through the winter possible. So I do a couple of things. First thing I'll do is treat them for mites, because if they get mites over the winter, there's a real chance that the mites will basically destroy the hive. So we do a mite treatment on them so that we can make sure that they don't have to be battling the mites while they're battling the temperatures. And I also insulate the hives so they don't have to work as hard to keep the hive warm. Because basically the way that they make it through the winter is going into a little ball around the queen and just keeping her warm, right? And they're brood warm all winter. So they only have one job, and it's basically to keep, to expend energy to keep the queen and the brood alive. So by insulating the hive, that makes it a lot easier. They have to expend a lot less energy, just like your home, right? To stay overwintered. So the way that I'll prepare them, like I said, is insulating, treating them for mites, and then I'll feed them sugar water until these two bottom supers are full of honey as well. So they'll have a full stock of honey, they'll be insulated, they'll be pest-free, and then it's just cross your fingers and hope they make it through. But with all that preparation, they have a really good shot.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, those are most of our commonly asked questions. Was there anything else anyone had to ask? And then we're going to sign off for today.
I just have two questions.
Yeah, of course.
How do you treat them for the mites? What do you do?
So there's a couple different chemicals that you can use to treat them. The kind that I like to use, a little less harsh of chemical, are some strips. They come in strips. It's called Ativan. No, not Ativan. Sorry, that's like for when people are nervous. It starts with an A, and that's why my memory's screwing around. Let me think. Apivar is what it's called. And what you do is you put the strips down in the hive, right where the brood is. And as the bees walk across the strips, they pick up a little bit of the chemical, and the chemical is fine for the bees, but it kills any mites that would be on the bees. So you leave those strips in. After you've taken your honey out, then you can put the strips in because you don't want to mix the two. It is safe, but nobody likes to mix chemicals in food. So you don't do that until after you've extracted your honey. You put the strips in for about 4 weeks, and then you take the strips out, and by that time, all of the mites will have been killed. And you can test for that by looking at the bottom of the hive after you've done it. If you pull out the bottom board and look, you should be able to see a bunch of dead mites on the board.
Oh,
and
neat.
That'll tell you it's been successful. You can also test the bees as well to see if they have mites on them, but that ends up killing about 100 or 200 of the bees. So if I'm reasonably sure that there are no mites, then we're good. But if I'm not sure, then I'll test as well, just to confirm and to make sure that the mite treatment was successful.
And the other question I had, somebody in my office asked after I was telling them all I learned about bees, are bees and wasps related at all?
So I'm not a biologist. I believe they are related historically. They have a common ancestor, but to be honest, I won't fumble through an answer that I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
They are related, but I couldn't explain exactly what the relation is.
Good question.
Okay. Well, that was great. Thank you very much. That's been, it's always really interesting to watch this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. I'll do one more fly by the bees here. Now I've got honey on my phone. That's okay.
Yeah, what you're seeing down in there, this grid, that'll come out. That's to keep the queen from coming up. So it's just big enough that the bees, as you can see, can go down, back and forth through it. But the queen is much fatter than the standard honeybee, so she can't make it up through that grid. So that's what keeps her down there. But I'll pull that off as well for the winter, and then I'll have the run of everything down there.
Very neat. Well, I guess that's our closeout for the bees at Edmonton City Centre. Thank you very much for joining us or watching this video later. And if you got any questions about bees or sustainability here, you can always reach out to our office. Thank you very much for joining us, Tracy, and have yourself a great afternoon.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.